We're going to get Johnny Mac on in just a second. He just checked into my green room. So we'll talk to John McMullen here this morning. But I'm fired up. We had football on last night. Camp is moving right along. We're going into day number 7 today. We're 6 days out from the Philadelphia Eagles' first preseason game. All right. I think we're like just under 2 weeks out from the joint practices. So we're moving right along. All right. We're moving right along. Let's go to our main man, Johnny Mac. Chris AM, thank you, brother, for the gifted memberships this morning. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hit the like button, and let's get to the man of the hour, Johnny Mac, joining me right now here on Birds. JMac, thank you this morning, brother. Top of the morning to you on a football Friday and August 1st, brother.
Good morning. Yeah, August got here quickly, and think about all the work Jihad Campbell's already got, and we weren't expecting him until August. So it's probably the most positive part of the Eagles training camp, probably, because of what was expected to have him in the mix so early.
Yep, no doubt, John. I mean, we thought maybe late August, mid-August, who knows? And then I love your opening line. August 1st, and look at how much he's already accomplished. John, is that right now the biggest surprise early in training camp? I mean, look, everybody views training camp slightly different than the next guy. I don't think it means too much, but I do think it's an important acclimation period, especially when you have a very young football team, which the Eagles obviously do right now. Is that the biggest storyline of camp right now? Just that Jihaad Campbell is as far along as he is, and maybe even a lot further than anticipated before we came into camp a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I think by far it is, because for that exact reason, even the defensive coordinator wasn't expecting him until August. So, and the fact that Vic is the way he is, and he's not going to play players he doesn't trust. You can imagine if it were August 15th or after training camp even, there'd be very, very little chance that Jihaad Campbell would be on the field in any kind of meaningful fashion for week 1, and now it would be an upset if he wasn't. So, yeah, I think by far, considering what the expectations were of when he was going to ramp up, that's by far, to me, the biggest surprise of training camp.
Yep, it's a good surprise there to have our first rounder looking good already out on the practice field. We'll see how he continues to progress. John, we talked about his health, and I think the other big part of Jihaad Campbell right now, John, is he seems to look the part as well. It's one thing to be healthy quicker than anticipated. It's a whole nother ballgame to be out there and look better than your peers, or at least look like you can make a difference on the football field day one. We've heard some stories of him being maybe even too aggressive at practice, throwing some people to the side. So that's another big takeaway, John, is that he looks the part. Do you agree? And what have you seen from Campbell in that regard?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when people are saying, hey, maybe he's got to tone it down a little bit, maybe he's got to learn how to practice at the NFL level, I think, secretly, they wouldn't say it publicly, but secretly, I think, because everything's got to be so politically correct now, secretly, I think the Eagles are smiling with the fact that he's so physical, he's so aggressive, and he's so powerful for his size and all that kind of stuff, which we all knew. I mean, that's why if he hadn't had labrum surgery in March, probably would have been a top 15 pick, somewhere in that range. And he fell a little bit because of the injury. And I think I say it all the time. Forget about fans. I think teams get way too caught up in being on the field immediately. When you draft somebody, you're hoping he's going to be there for 6, 7, 8 years, maybe not 10 like the old days, but you're hoping to get to that second contract. To me, it's a complete waste of time to worry about, he's not going to be ready right away.
Yeah, John,
who cares if he's there for 6 years?
Yeah, but John, here's the only thing I would say back to that, because at large, I completely agree with you. But do you think it is a little different for this team right now because of the way they built? I mean, look at the way they're even Makuba, John, like second rounder, and I like to think what you think. God, who cares if he can't play week 1, right? I mean, I want the guy to be great in the long term, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line. but the Eagles kind of came into the season almost needing the guy to play. They're such a young team, and I think they're relying more on these young guys, and that's the only spot I would look and say, well, I agree at large, but does this team have a different circumstance where they kind of need some of these young guys to play quicker because that's the direction they've gone? I mean, they got rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, opened up the safety spot. They got one of the youngest defenses in the league. Do you see what I'm saying with that, or am I off base?
No, I think it's the same mentality, and I think it's not a good one, especially from a team perspective, because it is. And if you have to persevere with Tristan McMullen in a worst case scenario at safety for a few weeks, well, they've already done that. If you have to persevere with Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at linebacker, it's a player they like. It's a young player, not as proven, but it's a young player they like. So you have these pieces in place. Adoree Jackson at corner, a veteran player. How he put together these contingencies, these insurance policies, these safety nets. As long as you do it the right way, and there's no pressure, zero pressure for Jihad Campbell to be a star day one, or even more of a long shot scenario, Drew Makuba day one. There shouldn't be, I should say, right, any expectation of that. More so with the day 3 picks. We talked a lot about the struggles of Ty Robinson early in camp. It's not that big of a deal with young players. It's the process, but I think way too many teams, just another one of those outside the lines, outside the margins type advantages the Eagles have over other teams, because other teams were looking at Jihad Campbell going into the draft saying, well, he's not going to help us right away, so we can't use the 15th pick or the 16th pick, right, or all that. The Eagles tried to go up to 22 to get him originally. That's the first spot they tried to trade up at to get him. They were going to take advantage of what they think is a marked inefficiency of people worrying about, oh, he's got to be on the field week 1.
Right. Wrong approach, John. A lot of these, you're pointing out that a lot of these teams are taking the wrong approach, looking at it in the micro, and the Eagles are looking at it more, zoomed out and what the guy can do across the period of his career.
Exactly. And that's gonna bode well for your organization if you operate that way over a longer period of time. And that's the goal. Would you like him again? And now he's trending in a positive direction. He might be on the field week 1 significantly, and he might be a difference maker. And all that hand wringing, and he's out there week 1. That's just the icing on the cake.
Right.
To me, if he wasn't, and if he didn't start practicing till August 15th or August 20th or whatever, who cares? I don't get these teams.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do think there's a couple positions maybe where it would make more sense to have bigger expectations. Like, I'll just go to the safety one, and I agree. Your line of thinking is clearly correct on this. But you go to that safety spot, John, and if you're a spectator, a viewer, a fan of the game, a fan of the football team, you're like, okay, they ship off C.J. Gardner-Johnson. For people who aren't in the know, John, they might not fully understand why that happens. They just saw a good player with a good contract, and you get rid of them. And then the expectation is, oh, there they go. They drafted the safety. Here we go. That's going to be our replacement for Gardner-Johnson. Now, you're right. The Eagles have contingencies. They got Sidney Brown. They got other players. Maybe there's Tristan McMullen. Maybe other guys can move in. But I do think that's where some of that comes. The expectation specifically on Makuba is, we got rid of Gardner-Johnson, and now we need a safety. I don't know if they believe or not in Sidney Brown. And, hey, maybe the organization is higher on Sidney Brown than most outside are.
Well, yeah, I certainly think Howie and the scouting staff is high on Sidney Brown. They always have been. I don't know if Vic is as high on Sidney Brown, but he's been doing better, and Vic's been pointing out the positive of what he's been able to do. But I'm just a little bit worried about the style clash.
Yeah, right.
And we'll see how that it develops. But yeah, the Eagles like Sidney Brown a lot, the personnel guys. So there's no issue from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, I look, I have no problem with a fan saying, "Oh, they drafted Bakuba to replace C.J. Gardner-Johnson," which was clearly the long-term plan. Yes, but I have a problem when teams operate that way. Like, no offense to any fans out there, but Howie Roseman can't be worried about you needing to have Andrew Bakuba on the field
Right.
day one.
No, you're right. I hear you. I know what you're saying here. Yeah.
So that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, makes sense. Johnny Mac, some interesting tidbits from yesterday's practice. Couple guys emerging. I'm not going to go too far on it, but I did think it was good to hear Eli Ricks made some plays out there. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and slot him right in as potential cornerback too, but I do think maybe he has put himself firmly in the conversation for a roster spot, which is a good thing. And when you have the question at corner that we do right now, and you hear Vic kind of talk about Adoree Jackson the way he did, I don't think it was scathing, but I do think it wasn't necessarily a show of confidence just yet. And you have him battling with Ringo, and then Eli Ricks comes in and makes a little bit of plays. Maybe that position is, showing that there's some depth or at least some optionality there. What'd you make of Eli Ricks yesterday, and just kind of how that cornerback 2 spot has developed through 6 days of camp?
Yeah, well, I think it was positive. Obviously, he gets interception and situational work with the first team. And, people are going to notice that. But I did find it's like Vic was almost foreshadowing. He talked earlier in the week, and he was, a different subject, but he was talking about the cornerbacks, and he was saying, look, people are drawn to the football. So you're going to notice a pass breakup, certainly going to notice an interception. You're generally not looking where the ball isn't going. And that's where a lot of the evaluation comes in on the corners. Are they doing their job? Are they shutting down something from the offense? And that's where sort of the bigger part of it comes in with a lot of things you're not even watching. In the case of Eli, look, I knew that was going to generate a lot of hype because the Eagles don't throw a lot of interceptions in training camp. But, he has those sharp reps until they increase with the first team. I'm not going to throw them into the competition yet, where I do think it's pretty clear that they want to keep them around again. Whether it's just depth, can never have enough corners, and he'll be in a position. But, I think he's earned extra reps, and I think he'll start getting them, especially if somebody gets banged up, which hasn't happened yet, but tends to happen at the corner position, and hopefully it's not him. But, he'll get the opportunity. He'll get a lot of opportunities in the preseason games. And maybe he can open that door, but I don't think the door for him being in the competition with Kaylee Ringo and Adoree Jackson is open just yet.
Yeah, good stuff. Johnny Mac, let's go over to the safety spot. We just talked about it a little bit. What are you seeing there? What are you feeling there? Is Makuba, let's get a sense on where he is. He's missed the last few practices, John. Have you gotten a sense on when he might return? And is Sidney Brown maybe widening the gap on him versus Makuba to get the starter?
Yeah, well, he's missed 3, so, but he was working pre-practice on, I don't even know what day we are, Thursday.
Yeah, going in.
So he looks like he's getting closer. Who knows? He might be out there today. It's going to be full pads. The humidity's broke, so that's good for the Eagles. But, he needs to get back and play. No question. He needs reps. He needs to play in the preseason games. And today would be a good time. They could probably, they have an off day tomorrow. So I would say Sunday is the day he's got to be out there if he's going to play in the preseason game. So to me, that's the more important day. But he's getting closer because he was working with Quignon and Cooper pre-practice, just sort of doing some drills. So he'll be back soon, but he's got to be back. He's got to get those reps because, I mean,
he is at least like visible though. He's not like he didn't get injured and he kind of disappeared. You know, you are seeing him out there. You do expect him.
Yeah, he's out. He's been out there every day, but yesterday was the first day he was doing some, looked like significant rehab and trying to get his legs back and things like that. So that's probably the indication that he's getting closer and closer.
Yeah, good stuff there. Johnny Mac, into that linebacker room, I think it's been pretty impressive. We talked about Jihaad Campbell at the Open just being the big surprise or the biggest storyline coming out of camp so far. But, John, I don't remember a time where we've had linebacker depth like this, man. Is this Philadelphia we're covering? Are we sure? We got more linebackers than we know what to do with, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do with Vic. He likes the position. That's his expertise. That's what he was a position coach at before he became a defensive coordinator. So he values the position. He understands the position. He knows the position. He evaluates talent at the position better than anybody else. And I'm hitting the wall whipping, so you might get a dead period from me, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just his belief in, you guys should value this position more than you have been. And the Eagles have in turn done that. I mean, the Zach Bond story is a great story, and it's been told to death. Just never got a chance in New Orleans. It turns into an all-pro under Vic Fangio here. Nico Dean, I think because Zach Bond was so good, I think people don't realize how good Nico was last year. He was a top 10 linebacker in the NFL last year. He had a career season, unfortunately injured in the wild card game, and that's a very difficult injury to rehab, and we'll see how quickly he can get back on the field. Then you have this massive top 15 level talent that we talked about in Jihaad Campbell, who can do sort of a hybrid role, can be an edge rusher, can play off ball. Small Munden is very athletic. I do think people are skipping some steps. He had a nice day. But that's my, I get a kick out of how fired up people get about day 3 rookies. But, he's getting extra first team reps because Zach is sitting out right now. Nicobe obviously isn't back. So he's getting a lot of first team reps, and I think that's very valuable. But, the goal is for him to be a special teams player and develop behind the scenes, and that's what it should be. And then Trotter, I think, is one of the stories of camp too, because he's just been rock solid. Like, he's done nothing wrong, and he's going to have a role in this defense. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think he's still going to. I think he's still going to be on track to be a week 1 starting linebacker, and then it's about how you perform in the games and all that kind of stuff. But he's just been good. And, I think a lot of that was he's a very instinctive player. Obviously, he's got the genes. He comes from a linebacker household. So he's very instinctive. And then he's got Vic Fangio helping on top of him. And Bobby King as well. Give Bobby a lot of credit. But like I said, Vic values that position. So, yeah, this is the deepest group of linebackers by far since I've been here. I mean, it's not even close to anything. This has been I always joke, the Paul Warlow, the Corey Nelsons, the Eric Wilsons, Nate Garys, Nick Morrows. That's what the Eagles were doing at linebacker for years, just trying to piecemeal it and saying, it's not that important. I think Vic has shown them, you know what? It could be pretty important.
What a time, Johnny Mac, with these many linebackers. I'll ask you, just from your perspective, John, is it as bleak for Nico Dean as it feels for me? And when I say that, I mean that with absolute no disrespect to the player. You point out how good he was last year. Really was a really a great football player for this team, a big part of the defense last year. But I'm having a hard time seeing a future for him here, John, in Philly. I don't know when he's going to get back this year. I don't know if the role is going to even be there for him by the time he does get back. And then you start to look at the long term, like we talked about at the start of the segment. I don't see it for Nico Dean. Is it as bleak as it feels for me?
Well, long term, I think it's bleak if you want to consider it. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be here next year. I think it's going to be, a Milton Williams type situation where you can't pay everybody if he plays well. If he's healthy this year, if he's healthy, and again, that's a big if. Whenever he can get to healthy, and he's the same guy, he's going to play. I know I say it all the time, and I know people aren't going to believe me until they see it. Vic loves Nico Dean, loves him.
Because he's a smart player, John. He's a really smart player.
Really smart player. And if he's available to him, and he's healthy, and he's playing the way he was playing last year, he's playing. And something's got to happen with Jihaad Campbell, and that's where I say the sub-package is the edge rushers. And maybe that's a silver lining because, that to me remains the weakest position on the team from a depth standpoint. And we'll see how that shakes out and if Howie makes a move or, maybe some guys step up and maybe Aziz and Josh play better than maybe some expect.
Yep, good stuff there. Johnny Mac, Nick Sirianni set to speak this morning before practice, day number 7. What do you want to hear from Nick? What are you looking to talk to Nick about? And then just anything else on your mind here as we go into day number 7 that the Johnny Mac eyeballs will be watching?
Well, with Nick, I fear you're going to get the stupid he's going to talk again. I haven't seen it. I forget the schedule, but I assume he's going to talk before the preseason game again. But you're going to get is anybody going to play in the preseason? So that's going to be a waste of valuable time and effort. But I do want to ask him about what Vic said about getting Cooper DeJean some more tests at the safety position and sort of, explain that give and take, setting up practice. How do you make Kevin happy? How do you make Vic happy? I think that's got to be explained. And, the false starts, which, Dallas kind of cleared it up, but you want to hear it from the head coach as well. They were working on a lot of silent counts, a lot of noise. So that explains some of the problems. But it'll be interesting. He got frustrated at certain points, so I don't think it went well from his standpoint. But so talk about stuff like that. But I'm sure you get plenty of the worthless stuff as well, unfortunately. But those are the most pressing needs from the head coach as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree with you. John, the one question I would ask on that preseason thing, and I agree with you, most of it is probably worthless questions, but do you think it's different at all this year because of how young the roster is? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to sit a bunch of veterans. You know what I mean? Like, this defense is super young. Like, for example, Keely Ringo, will he play? Another example, Sidney Brown, will he get reps? On the edge, Jalix Hunt, and Nolan Smith, who's only really played 9-10 good games of his career. I know they're starters and you can't afford to lose them, so I don't really expect them to play, but do you think the youth adds an element where maybe Vic gets his way and gets a couple guys out there for preseason?
Yeah, I mean, the defense is, don't worry about it. They're going to play. I mean, Vic's going to play him. I mean, Vic believes the offense. No, they're going to
offense. I would
and
say
those guys are entrenched. But Vic believes in playing in preseason anyway. So you saw it last year with a number of guys playing. They're going to play. My whole point is it's not really it's something Nick isn't going to answer, number one, so it's a waste of time.
Right.
And then when Vic talks next, he'll get the question. He'll say, yeah, they're going to play. They're going to play. The guys who are competing are going to play.
Right.
He's already said that. So, you don't have to worry about that.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. All right, John, any final thoughts here before I let you run on a day number 7, John, out on the practice field, the Football Friday edition. They'll be off tomorrow, and I believe the reason they're off tomorrow is because they got the Thursday game next week, so they want to get the week going early to kind of start to – I don't know if they care about the preseason game, but I do think they maybe do a little mental run through to prep so they can get ready for games in the season. John, any final thoughts from you on this day number 7, Football Friday edition before practice?
Nope, I've arrived. It's time to go in. It's time to go in.
Oh, I got one super, John. I got to read one super to you. Brian Fleming checked in. So before I let you run, all right, JMac, Trey Lance looked good last night, and we've established this week that Herbert is a cuck that throws more picks in the playoffs than Lance did as a Cowboy. Do you see a QB controversy emerging?
How much did Brian pay to sound like an idiot? I don't know. I don't know what to tell him.
$10, Johnny Mac. That's
one guy sitting on the sideline because he's not competing. Again, come on, elevate football IQ, get some sense. But thanks for the $10.
All right, Johnny Mac. Enjoy the practice today. We'll talk to you tonight on a nightcap edition of Birds 365.
All right, see you guys.
All right, see you, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac joining us right here on Football 24/7. Great stuff from Johnny Mac. Brian Fleming, he shot it down about as fast as I thought he would. All right? He shot it down about as quick as I thought he would. Actually, Brian, it might have been a little quicker than I thought. He hit you with an elevate the conversation, baby. Elevate. Who knows that Drake song? Elevate. Elevate. That's great. All right, great stuff. Good. By the way, good conversation there with Johnny Mac. I love talking to John, especially when it's fresh in the morning. You only got 15, 20 minutes. You can rattle off some things, get some good responses from him. I thought that was a good conversation there with Johnny Mac. Team's moving right along, guys, in practice in camp right now, and they're prepping now for the full season and everything that we have ahead of us. But you can see where the battles are really emerging and where they're not. But I do think it's all, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of questions too. I think, what's your guys' biggest question right now? All right, as a fan base, what is your biggest, your personal, what is your personal biggest question right now? Is it safety? Is it corner? If you're like me, it's probably a combination of those two. Is it offense? Is it right guard? What is your guys' personal biggest concern as we now get ready? We're within a week from preseason. I want to say we're 33 days away or 32 days away maybe from the opener. How long until September? 34 days away. Shown up says CB2. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I got a little bit of concern. Not concern, but a little bit of questions at the safety spot. Just because I don't know. Are we relying on a rookie? I don't know. Like, dude, I like Makuba. I think he could be long term, kind of like John said, but we need 1 year. Like I'm talking about 1 year with a chance to go back and repeat. Niall, what's up, Niall? He says CB2, corner safety for Fleming. I'm with you, Fleming. 30 air, safety and corner. I agree, brother. Eduardo says, are we moving on from Dean after this season? I think so, Eduardo. I think John explained it properly. I agree with that. Safety or edge for me, JB3. All right, so in the Johnny Mac camp. Big Mike also going with the edge. Abe goes right guard. Okay, Abe. I can't tell you I'm super confident in Steen, Abe, but I do feel a little bit better just because of Jeff Stoutland. And by the way, Lane Johnson on your right, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata on your left. Like, talk about a rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, you could put a fucking traffic cone in there and they might be decent because of who's playing next to them. I don't know. Those 4 offensive linemen that I just named are damn near good enough to play the role of 5. That's how good those 4 are. All right. That's how good those 4 are. SMD, what's up, SMD? Good to see you in here, Maria. I hope you had a great summer. It's good to see you back in here. Hopefully we start to see you consistently. You're one of my favorite viewers. SMD Eagles has been here for those who don't know. I don't know, SMD, since JAKIB had what? 1,000 subs? 1,400 subs? And that's a long time. So you've seen it all, man. You've seen it all. It's pretty cool. Good to see you in here. I appreciate you coming back. Edge depth. Joe Whip says edge depth, otherwise stacked. We'll see. Johnny Mac has got everybody a little concerned about that edge, man. Abe says, Zander, I don't know, man. Becton took that position just because of a sprained ankle. It's true. We'll see. We'll see. Matt Pryor will start. Right now, it doesn't look like it. Right now, it doesn't look like it, SMD. I think it's actually going to be Steen. But I was with you coming into camp where I thought Pryor would win that job. But John's telling me, look, it's Steen. I mean, and Stoutland says it's Steen. That's who he's putting with the first team reps every single time. All the offensive linemen next to him are treating him as the first team guy. Like, it's Steen. Now, I thought Pryor would get it too, but we'll see. R. Anthony says, where does Nolan Smith fit in? I don't know what you mean. He's the starting edge rusher. He needs to be the number one. He needs to be the guy that takes over some games at times. Now, is he ready to do that? That would be a fair question to ask. I happen to think that none of my questions on Nolan Smith have anything to do with his talent as a football player. I think the kid's going to be a fucking stud. I think he's way better than people give him credit for. I think he is phenomenal for his size and the way he uses his strength. I mean, you don't see a edge rusher his size that can set the edge the way he does. Quick rusher, got great moves. I love Nolan Smith. The question there would be, is there injury concerns? All right, smaller guy. You know, I don't know what that looks like, R. Anthony, but I do think I feel pretty damn good, honestly, about him on the edge. And I feel good about Jalix too. I know. I mean, look, you know, maybe there is some fandom there where it's like, all right, you're putting the cart before the horse, and, you know, they haven't done enough to feel that way. But, dude, it's one thing to have blind optimism. It's another thing to look at how the last couple years have gone. Look at the way the team is drafted. Look at the way the team has developed young talent. Look at the way, like, if you add everything up, the way the Eagles have done it have clearly given them a better odds to succeed than other guys who might be relying on a second-year player you know nothing about. So it's not just like, hey, we've sucked at drafting for 5 years, but I promise this is the year we turn it around. It's really not like that. In fact, it's the inverse of that. We've been so good, you would have to go out on a limb to say the young guys aren't going to be good. Like, it would be more of a, in my estimation, it would be more of a gamble to say that than say that the young guys are going to be good, just going off the track record in the last 3-4 years.